The following presentation is for the Major Site Plan Case SP 22-10 and Minor Waiver Request WI 24-3 located at 777 South Yarrow Street. A public hearing before the City of Lakewood Planning Commission will be held on May 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers. The project site is located within the Mixed-Use Core Urban Zone District, commonly referred to as Downtown Lakewood. The vicinity map on this slide depicts the extent of the MCU zone district overlaid on an aerial image. The project site is located near the southern edge of the zone district to the west of Wadsworth Boulevard. Zooming in closer to the site, as depicted on this slide, we see that the site fronts onto South Yarrow Street and is surrounded on three sides by Belmar Park. The site was initially developed in the 1970s and early 80s as part of the phased Iron Gate Executive Plaza office complex, which included 777 South Yarrow Street and the property directly east of it. The applicant is proposing to redevelop the 5-acre site with a 6-story, 411-unit multifamily building. The new development will include 561 parking spaces located in a parking structure that is internal to the building. As part of this redevelopment, the property owner has agreed to dedicate approximately 8,600 square feet of land that surrounds the historic pump house to the City of Lakewood. The existing pump house, which is currently located on private property, is covered by a municipal purposes easement, which will be vacated after the deed conveying this land to the city has been recorded. The warranty deed for the parkland dedication has been fully executed, and the document will be recorded by city staff following the public hearing if Planning Commission determines that the major site plan satisfies the applicable zoning regulations. In its current configuration, the gross site area is 5.25 acres in size. The proposed land dedication to the city will result in a net site area or developable area that is 5.05 acres, which is reflected as a site area and new boundary configuration depicted on the site plan and on this slide. Vehicle circulation and emergency vehicle access is accommodated via a private driveway that will take access from South Yarrow Street in 2 locations. Access to the parking garage is internal to the site at the north and south sides of the building. The project will include signage restricting access for non-emergency and non-service vehicles west of the garage access points. A change in surface material is proposed for the portion of the driveway where access will be restricted to any vehicle that is not on site for emergency or utility service purposes. Grade separated sidewalks are proposed from the public sidewalk on Yarrow Street to the ground floor entry stoops, the project plazas, and bicycle parking facilities, as well as the primary building entrance. Bicycle parking facilities are identified with a star symbol on this slide. Private internal sidewalks also connect the public trail located west of the project site in Belmar Park. The proposed building footprint is 128,778 square feet in area, which includes approximately 35,000 square feet of parking structure that is wrapped on all sides by residential dwelling units. This slide depicts the proposed plaza, roof amenity, and landscaped areas for the project. The Lakewood zoning ordinance defines open space as areas that are designed and intended for the use and enjoyment of residents and/or the public in general, and that are not occupied by structures, parking lots, or driveways. In addition to the landscaped areas for this project, the other facilities like sidewalks, plazas, improved rooftop, and similar amenities designed for active and passive use all count towards the project's total open space area. It's important to understand that the land development process is a phased process, and depending on type of land development, can take upwards of 5 to 10 years to get from the initial phase, shown on this slide here, to a point where the building can be occupied. As you can see here, the zoning approval for land development proposals is just one step in a much longer development process. In addition to the city's adopted development review, plan approval, and permit process, a developer must also navigate land acquisition and project financing needed to hire professional consultants to prepare development plans and construction documents. Once all required plan approvals and construction phase financing has been secured, permit fees are paid, the construction phase can begin. Compliance with adopted zoning regulations is only part of the overall land development process required to secure building permits. In addition to the major site plan, there are other design plans, reports, and construction documents that do not fall under the planning director's authority to review or approve. For example, civil engineering construction documents and reports are required with the formal site plan application, but they are reviewed and approved concurrently by the city engineer. The zoning ordinance designates the planning director as the authority responsible for reviewing and rendering a decision on the major site plan document. Separate from the city's review and permitting process, a developer must also navigate the plan review and approval process required by the sewer and water district, fire district, dry utility agencies that provide gas, electricity, and communication to the project. The city issues a courtesy referral of the site plan application to applicable utility districts and service providers to inform them of the development proposal. This allows the utility districts and service providers to review the project and communicate specific agency regulations, permit requirements, and review processes back to the applicant. Following the initial project referral, it is the applicant's responsibility to submit required detailed design plans directly to the district or agency to secure plan approvals and/or acquire any non-city permits. Each district and agency have their own application and permit process. Separate agency reviews and permits are not required prior to the major site plan approval. Article 2 of the Lakewood Zoning Ordinance establishes the processes and procedures for planning review within the city of Lakewood. A major site plan is required for redevelopment that includes a new building or when a change is proposed to the site that affects 20% or more of the site area. The site plan is intended to demonstrate compliance with zoning regulations pursuant to the process outlined in the zoning ordinance. The planning director has authority to review and render a decision on a major site plan application, or the planning director can refer the application to the planning commission to hear and render a decision. A minor waiver is required whenever an applicant has proposed a superior design modification to a design standard within the Lakewood zoning ordinance. Recommendations and decisions regarding waiver applications shall be based on the review criteria in the zoning ordinance. Similar to the site plan process, the zoning ordinance gives the planning director authority to review and render a decision on minor waiver applications or refer the application to the planning commission to hear and render a decision. Notice of the public hearing was posted on the subject site, posted at City Hall, and published in the newspaper of record, as well as on the city's website. The zoning ordinance does not include a mailed notification requirement for major site plans or minor waiver applications, including those that are referred to the Planning Commission by the planning director. Recommendations and decisions regarding the major site plan shall be based on the following criteria. First, the major site plan shall comply with the standards outlined in Articles 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 13 of the zoning ordinance. Second, the director shall evaluate how well the proposed modifications contribute to the overall performance of the site and how well the proposed changes meet the standards in those same articles of the zoning ordinance. Articles 3 and 10 do not have standards applicable to this land development proposal. Article 3 is applicable to development applications that are seeking to be initially zoned or rezoned into a new zone district and does not have any specific designs or development standards that are applicable to site redevelopment. Article 10 outlines standards and review processes applicable to wireless communication facilities. The proposed multifamily development does not include any existing to remain or new wireless communication facilities as part of the project. The mixed-use core urban zone district, depicted on this slide, is intended to allow and accommodate opportunities for higher density mixed-use development with urban characteristics located in downtown Lakewood. Zoning standards for projects in mixed-use districts with an urban context are intended to achieve a pedestrian-friendly environment with a street network that is conducive to pedestrian and bicycle access. The context requires buildings to be located within a short distance of the adjacent public street, with parking located within a structure and/or to the side of the building. Within the MCU zone district, the mixture of uses is achieved within the district boundary. Most blocks and buildings located within the MCU district do not have vertical mixed-use buildings or really even a mix of residential and non-residential uses located on the same block. This map depicts the general location and land uses within the district, and as you can see, a majority of the district is currently comprised of commercial land uses, with those residential uses primarily located on the periphery of the district boundary. This major site plan was reviewed to ensure compliance with the applicable zoning standards, and it was evaluated for the project's performance and overall contribution towards achieving the intended character and land use composition within the mixed-use urban core zone district. Pursuant to the use table depicted on this slide, the proposed multifamily dwelling unit land use is a permitted use in the mixed-use core zone district. The section reference 17536F in the supplemental standards column of the table is only applicable to residential projects in the mixed-use employment districts and does not apply to this project. Article 5 standards regulate the placement and height of buildings, which apply to all new development and redevelopment. Under the general standards, the project complies with the setback and height applicability, exception, and measurement standards. The development proposal includes a minor waiver request to the facade setback requirement, which will be addressed later in this presentation. Standards located within Section 1752, 1754, and 1755 are not applicable to the proposed project. The project does comply with the applicable dimensional and minimum story requirements, which I will detail on the next slide. This chart shows the dimensional standards that are applicable to new projects within the MCU zone district. The site plan was reviewed to verify that the project satisfies the building height, setback, minimum open space, minimum build-to zone, and minimum building story requirements. Article 6 establishes site and building design standards for new residential development in Lakewood. The project is satisfying the building design, screening, pedestrian circulation, landscape design, fence, and lighting standards, as I will detail over the next 8 slides. Section 1762 includes standards that inform specific aspects of the building design and building architecture. The site plan was reviewed to verify that the project satisfies building elevations, transparency, building entry, and roofline contrast for the portion of the building that includes the slope roof. To minimize the impact of mechanical and service elements associated with the building, the proposed utility meters will be screened from view of the public street. Rooftop equipment will be screened by parapet walls, and roof drains will be architecturally integrated into the building structure. The project does not propose any stairwells that are exterior or external to the building. Moving on to standards associated with utility structures and building service areas, the 2 transformers required for the project are located behind the front building facade and will be screened with structural and landscape elements on all sides except for where an opening is required for access. Trash and recycling collection bins will be located within the building and will be covered by a roof. Internal sidewalks will provide pedestrian access to primary building entrances, all on-site facilities, the adjacent public sidewalks, and the multi-use trail in the adjacent park. All sidewalks will be at least 5 feet in width, and they will be separated from vehicle driveways by a raised 6-inch curb. The project landscape design includes a diverse plant selection that is appropriate for our arid climate. The proposed landscaping will exceed the minimum street tree and on-site tree and shrub quantity requirements as outlined in section 17.6.5. The trees and shrubs that are specified in the plant schedule are consistent with the minimum size requirements for new plant material, and the project will satisfy the tree replacement requirements through a combination of new trees being planted as well as a fee in lieu. The project will be preserving and protecting 7 existing trees, removing 66 trees, planting 174 new trees, and will pay a $415,200 mitigation fee pursuant to section 17.659 of the zoning ordinance. The project will have open ornamental iron fencing for ground floor residential stoops and to enclose the proposed courtyards. Site fencing will range in height from 3.5 to 5 feet tall, which is well within the 6-foot height fence limit for multifamily uses. A 6-foot privacy fence/utility equipment screen is proposed to screen the new transformers, which will be located at the northeast and southeast corner of the site. The project is designed to achieve a 0-foot candle reading at all property lines. Light fixtures are full cutoff and directed down towards the ground. Energy efficient outdoor lighting is specified for the project. Article 7 establishes building and site design standards for all buildings and sites with uses other than residential development in the city. In general, the building and site design standards in Article 7 do not apply to this project because it is a residential land use. However, a more restrictive applicability statement located in section 17.7.5 states that the open space and on-site amenities requirement is applicable to residential developments when the site is greater than 2 acres in size. The site has been designed to incorporate 5 separate and unique plaza areas that exceed the minimum area required in the mixed-use core urban zone district. In addition to seating, each plaza incorporates 2 additional pedestrian elements to satisfy the enhanced pedestrian amenity requirement pursuant to this section. Article 8 establishes parking standards for each land use within the zoning ordinance. The project is satisfying the general, visitor, bicycle, electric vehicle charging, and loading standards as detailed over the next 4 slides. The proposed parking garage will accommodate more than 1.25 residential parking spaces per unit, plus an additional visitor parking space at a rate of 1 space per 15 units, for a total of 561 spaces. Bicycle parking is accommodated via 42 short-term parking racks and 208 long-term bike parking spaces. Bike racks providing short-term bike parking facilities are located in proximity to the building entries and are accessible from the internal sidewalks that connect to the public walk and park trail. Long-term parking/bike storage is accommodated in a dedicated locked bike storage room located within the building. New multifamily developments are required to provide electric vehicle charging stations along with electric vehicle charging station capable parking spaces. The project will include 12 parking spaces that will have EV chargers installed when the CO for the building is issued. An additional 109 spaces will be constructed as EV capable spaces, so additional charging stations can be accommodated as warranted by future demand. Building services and project loading is located on site and internal to the building with access through overhead doors on the north side of the structure. The site will accommodate over 200 feet of stacking at each driveway access point onto South Yarrow Street, which is well over the minimum 60-foot stacking required based on the number of parking spaces. The major site plan was reviewed for compliance with Article 13 Enhanced Development Menu Standards that were in place at the time of the formal site plan application. Based on the proposed building gross floor area, the project is achieving the required 50 points through the 9 menu items that are listed on this slide. To recap, the purpose of the major site plan review is to ensure the development proposal complies with the applicable zoning standards in Articles 3 through 8, 10, and 13, and to evaluate a project's performance and overall contribution towards the character and land use composition within the mixed-use urban core district. It is now time to take a look at the design waiver request to address minor encroachments associated with the facade step-back standard per section 17.515C, located in Article 5. The facade step back requires buildings that are taller than 45 feet in height to provide a 10-foot facade step back at that 45-foot building height, along with another 10-foot step back for every additional 30 feet in building height. The applicant is requesting relief from the facade step back to allow minor building encroachments above the 45-foot building height and within the 10-foot facade step back area. If the request is approved, it would allow architectural elements including the roof overhang, cantilevered rooftop open space, balcony canopies, and unit privacy partitions, all depicted in green, to extend into the 10-foot facade step back. The waiver will also allow minor encroachment associated with several of the 4-story units, which is occurring due to the 6-foot elevation grade change along the public right-of-way adjacent to the front building facade. When measured from the high point right-of-way elevation, which is located near the midpoint of the Yarrow Street building facade, the 4-story units are below the 45-foot step-back dimension. As the street drops in elevation towards the project driveways on either end of the site, the upper portion of some of the 4-story units gradually start to extend past that 45-foot height measurement. This change in the right-of-way elevation along the project frontage causes a taper to the 45-foot height, which eventually reaches a point where the 4-story units no longer encroach into the facade step back. This dimensional taper is due to the method of measurement, which states that the 45-foot step back height is measured from grade at the right-of-way, which in this case, as with many other sites in Lakewood, can fluctuate across the property frontage. This slide depicts the proposed encroachments for the north half of the building facade as the street begins to fall in elevation as it approaches the northeast building corner, creating another dimensional taper from the end unit back towards the central or middle point of the building facade. This slide provides a comparison of the proposed building design in the top 2 images, along with an alternative building facade design that complies with the strict application of the facade step-back standard. The project can move forward with a building design that does not require a design waiver approval as currently requested. The 4-story units can be reconfigured and the exterior architectural roof and balcony elements can be eliminated from the building proposal, but these modifications do not result in a superior building design. The proposed architectural elements are intended to create comfortable outdoor spaces and help to activate the visually accessible facade step-back space, leading to community vibrancy, pedestrian interaction, engagement, and safety for the surrounding neighborhood. Imposing a strict application of the standard will not change the number of proposed dwelling units. It also will not change the building mass and form, which is already permitted under the existing zoning. A detailed evaluation of the 7 minor waiver review criteria is provided in the staff report and summarized on this slide. Based on staff's review, we find that the minor waiver, if approved, will result in superior design. It will better serve the intent of the zone district. It will not impair the use or development of the adjacent property. It will not alter the area or the neighborhood character. It is consistent with the neighborhood development pattern that is desired in the MCU district. It will conform with the policies of the comprehensive plan. And finally, it does meet the intent of the zone district. Based on the information provided in the staff report and details highlighted in this presentation, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the findings of fact in order A through R as presented in the staff report and approve site plan case number SP 22-10 and minor waiver case WI 24-3, authorizing staff to issue a final major site plan approval as detailed on the following slide. A decision by the Planning Commission to approve the site plan with the waiver will allow the project to proceed with the other related approvals that must take place before construction can begin. This slide lists the next steps in the land development review process if the Planning Commission finds that the site plan is approvable in form. Before the final site plan and civil plan approvals can be issued, the plat must be approved and recorded together with the 3 other documents listed under step 2 on this slide. The applicant will also need to submit payment for the tree mitigation fee prior to site plan approval. Building permits will be released for the project construction only after the project has secured approval for the major site plan, civil construction documents, and building permit plans, and the developer has paid all fees that are due prior to the issue of the building permit. This concludes the presentation for the 777 South Yarrow Street major site plan and minor waiver applications. Comments about the information presented may be submitted in writing to Lakewood Speaks or may be provided in person at the public hearing on May 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers. Thank you.